was the mechanism of temptation. How does temptation happen? And we spoke about that a lot. We spoke about how temptation is when we give into the desires of our own flesh, when we follow our own desires and we take our eyes off Christ. Temptation leads to sin. And as James says, temptation leads to sin. And when sin is fully grown, a life of unrepented sin, it leads to death. And James was talking about spiritual death, eternal separation from God. And also, the other theme that we want to touch on in the series is the purpose behind temptation. Every trial, every temptation, and by the way, I will use trial and temptation interchangeably because temptations are trials, and how we stand in those trials will determine whether we walk closer with God or not. So, the other important theme is the purpose behind temptation, because every temptation, every trial we go through has two results, two ultimate results and two ultimate objectives. You have God's objective for allowing that trial, and we have Satan's objective for allowing that trial as well. So we're going to focus a lot on that particular theme today, the purpose of temptation, the purpose of trial. Why does God allow it, and what is Satan trying to do? What is Satan trying to do by bringing those trials our way? What we're hopefully going to touch on the next session after today, we'll look at how we too can overcome temptation by looking at the example of Jesus in Matthew chapter 4, and hopefully we'll be able to see Christ's absolute power, his absolute authority over Satan, over sin, and over all the powers of hell. And we can take comfort in the fact that no matter what we go through, no matter what we are experiencing, if we are followers of Jesus Christ, if he is our core, our center, if we are living for him, we can be rest assured that no matter what we go through, no matter how difficult it may be, we can count upon the promises, the power, the presence, and the providence of Christ, and his actually his presence and him interceding with us and for us in the midst of our trial. So that is the themes we want to touch in this session. If we'll recap what we spoke about last session, we will talk about what does the Bible say about temptation. A few important things just to, again, set the context. The Bible tells us in James chapter 1, verse 13 to 14, that temptation is not of God. So God doesn't tempt us, but we are carried away by our own evil desires. That's the first thing. So it's not of God. God doesn't tempt us, but he does allow us to be tested for a particular purpose, for particular reasons. And we're going to touch on that today. The second thing that the Bible tells us is that we can depend upon Jesus in our time of temptation, in our time of trial. If we read Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15, what does Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15 tell us? Hebrews chapter 4 15 actually tells us, it says here that, for we do not